The Where Our Minds Wander podcast may contain sensitive content and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow wanderers, to the places our minds wander.
The house at the end of the dirt road, where disembodied voices whisper and strange sounds make the living shiver.
Where shadows lurk at the edge of the woods, just outside your back door. And mysterious lights speed beyond reason across the clear night sky.
Odd events throughout time that lead you down the rabbit hole.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Where Our Minds Wander. Hello and welcome to Where Our Minds Wander, all you fellow wanderers. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody.
Well, it's nice to be back in the studio.
As always.
Although we're recording on a Monday night instead of a Sunday because we had such a hellish week.
It was a long week full of a lot of stuff. And our weekend was not relaxing either.
Not really. I mean, you're just getting used to be back to school and getting into the swing of things. And, well, I've been doing a lot of researching and editing, and it's just a lot going on lately. Although I did get a chance to go out with my middle daughter and do some fishing.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really keep anything, but we caught quite a few. I'd say about 12 altogether. Catch and release. Did see some pretty cool baby snapping turtles, all swimming in groups. She wanted to take some home, of course, but that wasn't in the cards that night.
Or should it ever be?
Well, according to her, yes.
Right.
But not too bad, really. Just a little tired, a little stressed. Friday, we didn't do much. But Saturday night, well, we did kick back and enjoy ourselves a little bit with some Mark and Digger's corn whiskey moonshine mixed with watermelon juice. Well, that's what I had, but you had twisted teas of all things.
Did I? I don't even remember.
I know, you got pretty schnockered.
I did? Friday?
Yeah, Saturday night.
Saturday night. I can't even remember what day you're talking about.
Fall down kind of like schnockered, but
right.
Still.
Right. But there was one...
It's a little fuzzy.
There was one night where we put on some Mozart, which for us is rather unusual. And I was working on a haunted house cross-stitch that I picked up. And you were reading Gordy Little's Ghosts of Clinton County.
Stories.
Yeah, the book that we picked up.
Yeah, we picked that up at the Battle of Plattsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good read so far. I made it probably 4 or 5 stories in, and then, of course, I skipped around a bit. So I have to go back, start off from the beginning where I left off. But it's an excellent read.
There's a lot of haunted homes around here that we never would have known about otherwise.
Right, in Clinton County.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Gordy Little was a pretty prominent, well-known figure around here. I mean, he did Wiry Radio, the local radio station, for like 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, he had this whole fascination with ghosts pretty much all his life since he was a young child. And then after his retirement from Wiry, he started taking down people's ghost stories. Excellent read.
Yes.
I don't know where. I'm sure you can find it somewhere online. I don't know if it's on Amazon, but it's called what, Beth?
Ghosts of Clinton County.
Yeah, it's definitely a good read. And whether it's, you know, just pertaining to here, Clinton County and New York State, it doesn't really matter because the ghost stories are that good.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, we're not going to do any housekeeping tonight.
No.
I think we're just going to get right into our stories because we've got a couple good ones.
Yeah. And mine is a haunting, so it's perfect.
Or I should say great ones. So everybody's like on the edge of their seats. You don't want to lead off with good.
Right. Well, they're okay.
I usually lead off with, it's great, and then let them be disappointed after when they find it's It's only good.
Or just okay.
They're just okay. Yeah, I could deal with that.
All right, so tonight I'm talking about a chateau in France, which to me is always misleading because chateaus are actually castles.
A chateau in France.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. So the Chateau de Brissac in the Loire Valley of France has been in the same family for over 400 years. That blows my mind.
I know. It kind of makes me sick. I see these shows where some of these people have been in these homes for hundreds of years. And it's like, I'd give anything to have a family history all on the walls and walk through the hallways that they walk through. I mean,
and
that's gotta be awesome.
The portraits on the walls are your great-great-great-great-grandmother or,
I know. All your history's right there.
Yeah. So at 7 stories tall, the castle is the tallest chateau in all of the Loire Valley. And with 204 rooms, it's a place where you can definitely feel the hands of time pulling you back to the past. From the opulent main salon to the stone-floored kitchen with its massive hearth. Priceless oil portraits cover the walls. Marble fireplaces glow with embers, and gilt mirrors reflect the antique furniture. The canopy beds, the crushed velvet and silk-covered chairs, and the painted ceilings. Each room is like a separate but grand time capsule. If you go to the Chateau de Brissac's official website, you can actually take one of those 360-degree virtual tours. So it's one of the ones where it like drops you on the front step and you can go inside, and it's literally as if you're walking around every room. And you can look at everything on the walls and every piece of furniture. And it's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's like you're actually there.
Yes.
I remember you showing me the other night when you were sitting in the sitting room on the love seat, and you're like, oh, you got to see this. It's so cool. It was cool.
It was very...
But you could take a long time going through this place.
Oh, you could spend hours sitting there and going through the chateau. I mean, I spent hours looking at the lighthouse cam.
Oh, yes.
I don't even remember where it was. It was some haunted lighthouse, and they had a all-day camera set up, and right. I remember watching that forever. So, like you said, I am a little bit jealous of anybody who actually gets to live in a place like the Chateau de Brissac, even though their resident ghost, the Green Lady, sounds a little terrifying. There actually used to be 2 resident spirits, but at some point one of them moved on, according to the stories, and only the Green Lady with her monstrous face still remains. According to darktourists.com, the chateau was originally built by the Counts of Anjou in the 11th century as one of the many strongholds to hold off the invading English and other warring French families. In the 13th century, King Philippe II gave the castle to a knight named Guillaume de Roche for his part in a victory. 200 years later, King Charles VII gave the chateau to Pierre de Brissac, his chief minister, who immediately began rebuilding the chateau. King Charles had a daughter, Charlotte, with his courtesan Agnes Sorel. Charlotte was one of the king's favorite children, and he promised her in marriage to Pierre de Brissac's son, Jacques, in 1462. Charlotte and Jacques' marriage was not the best. First, they didn't seem to like each other all that much. Charlotte was used to court life, and she didn't exactly love being isolated out at the chateau in the Loire Valley. Jacques, on the other hand, really loved his estate, and he spent all of his time hunting and tending to his land. They pretty much had nothing in common. One of Jacques' huntsmen, Pierre de Laverne, did seem to have time for Charlotte, though. Pierre was both handsome and well-educated, according to sources, and the two of them began an affair. Now, there are two different versions of how Jacques de Brissac discovered the affair between his wife and Pierre. One version, according to littlehouseofhorrors.com, is that on May 31st, 1477, Jacques returned from one of his hunting trips, ate dinner with his wife, and then went to bed. The couple, by the way, slept in separate rooms.
Well, no wonder they were having problems.
Well, it was pretty common back then. You had, the man's bedchamber and the woman's bedchamber. It's not all that odd. Jacques was awakened in the middle of the night by a servant who told him his wife and Pierre were in bed together. Jacques grabbed his sword or his hunting axe, or maybe both, and stormed into Charlotte's bedchamber, where he dealt each of them, Charlotte and Pierre, 100 fatal blows. The second version is that Jacques sought out Pierre and killed him first. Then he waited until his wife was alone in the chapel tower that evening, and he strangled her before throwing her body out the tower window. Regardless, both Charlotte and Pierre were murdered by Jacques de Brissac. But there's no clear record of whether he was imprisoned for the murders. Some sites say that he was, and some say that he was not. But the spirits of both his wailing dead wife and the sorrowful Pierre haunted Jacques so badly that he soon moved out of the chateau. Perhaps her haunting cries were a figment of his imagination, or perhaps not. His family kept ownership of the chateau for a century, until the reign of King Francois I, who then gave the castle to René de Caus, Anjou's new governor. The Caus family has owned it ever since. The chateau was badly damaged during the French Wars of Religion in the 1600s, and in 1611, Caus was given the title of Duke and the money to restore his castle. He was the one that had it extended upwards to the 7 stories that it still is today, and why it earned the nickname the Giant of the Loire Valley. Although the Caus family owned the chateau, it did see some years of unuse and abandonment, especially during the French Revolution when it was completely ransacked. At one point, it actually stood empty for 50 years. And then in 1844, the current Duke of Brissac, still within the Caus family, began restoring their family home.
See, that's what I like. You take a place like that, it can be unoccupied for 50 years, and it's still standing. Anything here that we have, 10 years, it's gone.
Yeah, it's crumbling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today, the chateau is still a family home, but with 204 rooms, the family is able to use part of the chateau for weddings and other events, and part of it is also a bed and breakfast. You can rent bedrooms from April to October for about €585 a night. If that's a bit pricey, you can also stop by for a castle tour 6 days a week. This is what you can expect from a tour, and I'm taking this directly from the chateau's website. Acquired in 1502 by René de Caus, the first Lord of Brissac, it is now the residence of the 14th Duke of Brissac. While the park offers magnificent views in the shade of century-old trees, a visit reveals a dazzling setting. Here, gilded ceilings, precious furniture, and above all, a delightful Belle Epoque theater dedicated to opera compete in beauty. In the large living room, family memorabilia are gathered together with portraits and photos, flowers, and candles, because Brissac is a family chateau in which each generation has strived to transmit the love and respect for a heritage to maintain a tradition of hospitality. In the dining room, you will see a table laid as if in the evening many guests were invited to the Duke's table. The tour continues in the footsteps of King Louis XIII, who came to Brissac in August of 1620. From historic rooms to painting galleries, and finally to the Belle Epoque Theater. This astonishing 200-seat opera house was born from the ambitious dream of Jean Say, Marquis de Brissac, a renowned music lover at the end of the 19th century. Can you imagine in your chateau you have a 200-seat opera theater?
Well, with a place like that, yes, I can imagine. It makes me so sick and jealous, though.
I know. Can you imagine we'd be like, okay, honey, where do you want to read our books and drink our beverages? I know, let's go to the opera theater.
There'd be a lot of empty seats.
Well, true.
It'd be you and I and maybe a few other people.
Right. The visit, this is still the official website talking about their tour. The visit ends in the cellar of the chateau with a tasting and sale of the estate's wines. Anjou Village's Brissac and Rosé d'Anjou age there in the silence and contemplation of the stone vaults. In our shop, you will also find many souvenirs. So, what? You're making a face.
No, it's every time I see these places or read about them, it's just astonishing to me. But I'm glad that they're continuing on because we know that a lot of them, well, they end up having to sell them because they just can't afford the taxes on them anymore.
Yes.
But the creative ones turn them into wedding events and, bed and breakfasts at some point. Or, they sell off some of the land because usually they're accompanied by quite a few acres.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice that it's in the family, as sickening as it is to have a 200-seat opera theater.
It sounds like this family is doing a very good job at maintaining.
It really does.
So if you go on the tour, you can see the original kitchen, which, as I mentioned, has that huge stone hearth, the hunting room, which is covered in mounted deer antlers, and the opera theater, plus several of the gorgeous bedchambers. It makes sense that movies and TV productions have also been filmed there, including a few adaptations of The Three Musketeers, the TV series Versailles, and The Iron Chef, which I thought was very interesting.
That is quite funny. The Iron Chef.
Yes.
Do they have a dungeon? They must have a dungeon.
They must, but I didn't see pictures of a dungeon in any of the stuff that I looked at. But there must be one. Interestingly, the history section of the website is very, very detailed. It's actually pages long. And it does mention Charlotte de Brissac, the murdered wife of Jacques de Brissac, and the fact that Charlotte's ghost still allegedly wanders the chateau's halls. Initially, her lover Pierre was believed to still be there with her, but his spirit supposedly was able to move on. Charlotte, however, has not. People who see her apparition always describe her as having blonde hair, and she's wearing a green dress, which is why she's known as the Green Lady.
That's nice for a change, though. It's not white, it's not black.
Right.
It's green.
It's green. The Green Lady herself is still filled with sorrow and distress. Most claims are that guests and Koss family members have heard her pitiful cries emanating from the castle's walls, traveling from room to room so that the source is never found. Hearing her terrible wailing must send shivers down anyone's spine, and it sounds bad enough. But seeing her is said to be much, much worse. Although she's not considered malevolent in any way, people who have seen her say that she still has her beautiful blonde hair, and she does wear a green dress, but her face is truly terrifying. Where her eyes and nose should be are simply dark, gaping holes. It's as if she's a skeleton in a dress, ravaged by both time and grief. And she's seen all over the chateau.
Well, if he threw out a window, that'd be pretty traumatic when you hit the ground, so that could explain some of her appearance. But then on the other hand, if he actually did kill them with 100 blows, well, that kind of explains a lot too.
Right.
So, wow.
Yeah. So, overnight guests have claimed to awaken in the middle of the night to see her standing at the end of their bed. Others have seen her walking both up and down the tower stairs, leading to and from the chapel tower where she may have been murdered. She's also been seen walking the halls all around the chateau, as if she's searching for Pierre, or perhaps Jacques, so she can get her revenge. In some cases, guests have even reported the horrific sight of her trying to pull a sword out of her own chest. Reportedly, the Koss family has become kind of accustomed to having Charlotte around, and they sort of take it in stride that she still haunts their home. Today, as I had said, the chateau is owned by the 14th Duke of Brissac, Charles-André de Cosse-Brissac, and his wife, Larissa. They raised 4 children in the chateau that has been in the family since the year 1502. They live in private quarters on the 4th and 5th floors of the castle. And, as I had mentioned earlier, they offer tours, wedding venue space, and the bed and breakfast accommodations. And yes, you can go visit the Tower Chapel on the tours.
Well, pretty interesting.
I know, it's sad.
So, she wasn't able to move on, supposedly. But the other dude that was having an affair with her...
Did.
He did.
At some point. After Jacques left the chateau, supposedly Pierre's ghost moved on. So they stuck together to kind of torment him until he left the premises.
That's so unusual.
I know.
Well, hopefully they're not bringing any ghost hunters into this building where they're constantly asking her what happened and bringing up things, so...
I don't think so. I don't think that's happening. They don't do ghost tours or anything like that.
Good.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's the Chateau de Brissac.
Excellent story, dear. And that brings us to our break. And we'll return after this Who'da Thunk It.
Hey, did you know? As we've said before, people collect all kinds of things, from mainstream things like Pez dispensers and Coca-Cola bottles to the more mundane like printed paper napkins and do not disturb signs. But one of the weirdest collections is housed at the Mutter Museum, the collection of swallowed objects. Curated by Chevalier Quixote Jackson, a laryngologist. The collection includes 2,374 objects that were removed by Jackson from his patients' throats and lungs. He noted that 32 of the objects came from the same small child. The collection includes screws, buttons, dentures, poker chips, rosaries, and even squirrel vertebrae. Who'da thunk it?
All right, we are back from the break. And I want all you fellow wanderers out there to imagine being a lumberjack in the 1800s or early 1900s, traveling from camp to camp around the country, spending your days cutting down massive trees, which, by the way, was incredibly dangerous, and sitting around a campfire at night with not much to entertain you. Lumberjacking meant 10-hour workdays 6 days a week, and you were lucky if anyone in the camp had any medical training to deal with the injuries sustained from falling trees, equipment malfunctions, and harsh weather. At night, most lumberjacks sat around the campfire and told stories, and before long, their stories became a way to initiate the newbies, and of course, haze them a little bit, especially if they weren't used to the sounds of the forest. Those stories took on the characteristics of tall tales, with some very interesting cryptids as the main characters. Those cryptids became known as fearsome critters. Usually, the story began with a setup. One of the loggers would join the campfire and just casually mention that they had heard a weird noise or that they had seen something strange out in the woods earlier that day. An accomplice would then pipe up that they had heard the same noise too, or that they had seen the same strange thing but hadn't wanted to say anything because they didn't want to be laughed at. But then a third logger, one that everyone considered an old-timer, would silence them all with the tale he would tell, effectively scaring the crap out of the newcomer. And as loggers moved on from camp to camp, they'd repeat their stories about fearsome critters from the neck of the woods they'd just come from, trying to outdo each other with their tall tales. And of course, many of the stories were actually believed. I mean, why wouldn't they be, when such reliable and knowledgeable loggers were talking about them? So tonight, there are 3 fearsome critters that I want to tell you all about: the slide rock bolter, the squonk, and the gloacus. In the case of the gloacus, the story was so believable that locals actually went out hunting for the thing. I want all you fellow wanderers to picture a humpback whale. Only this whale has a massive head, tiny eyes, and razor-sharp teeth. Its mouth oozes some sort of natural oil. It also has a tail covered in hooks. But this whale doesn't live in the ocean. It actually lives in the Colorado mountains. Known as the slide rock bolter, this fearsome creature perches upside down on the side of mountains at a 45-degree angle, and it sits so patiently and so still that it blends into the surrounding rocks. But it is always watching and waiting. As soon as the slide rock bolter sees any humans, whether they're tourists, hikers, or lumberjacks, it releases its hold on the rocks and slides downward at an incredible speed, opening its mouth into a gaping cavern edged with jagged teeth. The humans hardly have time to react before the slide rock bolter swallows everything in its path: trees, rocks, tasty humans, all in one gulp. Then the creature simply uses its tail to pull itself back up to the mountainside to sit and wait for its next meal. When humans are scarce, the slide rock bolter will settle for deer, bear, and elk instead. He's not that picky. According to 99.9 The Point, legend says that a slide rock bolter was responsible for the disappearances of 10 tourists a year. And it even took out the entire mining town of Rico. Now, to be fair, the town of Rico, Colorado, is perfectly fine. It was never taken out by a landslide, although it has seen its fair share of rock slides over the years. It was a silver mining boomtown in the 1800s and is surrounded by peaks that are 13,000 feet high. But today, it's a popular base for hikers, skiers, and other outdoor recreational activities. But in 2019, a rock slide with boulders weighing millions of pounds did take out part of Highway 145 outside of Rico, making the highway impassable for several days. Luckily, no one was hurt, and surprisingly, no one blamed the slide rock boulder. But maybe that's because the last one was killed long ago. According to the Denver Gazette, at some point in the 1900s, a park ranger in the San Juan Mountains took it upon himself to dress a dummy or a mannequin like a tourist. He then stuffed it or wrapped it in dynamite. He placed it at the bottom of Lizard Head, a 13,000-foot mountain, and waited. It wasn't long before a slide rock boulder came speeding down the mountainside, swallowing the explosive dummy, just like the ranger had hoped. When the dummy detonated, the slide rock boulder exploded. Its reign of terror had ended once and for all. Next, if we head to the hemlock groves of Pennsylvania, we might run into our next fearsome critter, the rare and elusive squonk.
The what?
The rare and elusive squonk.
A squonk.
Yeah, squonk.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you, it's hard to not feel sorry for the squonk. And not just because of its funny name. The squonk looks just like its name sounds. It's a smallish creature, about the size of a pig. In fact, it's quite pig-like. It looks a lot like one, except it has longer, skinnier legs and saggy, wart-covered skin. It also has webbed toes on both its front and back left feet.
Just the left?
Just the left.
Oh.
The squonk is very ugly. And somehow the creature seems to know that it's ugly because all it does is cry.
Oh.
You know, poor squonk.
Poor squonk.
According to HowStuffWorks.com, the squonk wails and cries like a baby all day and all night. And it doesn't just wail, it also cries lots and lots of tears. That's the best way to track a squonk, actually. At first, you might hear its awful baby-like cry. But if it suddenly goes silent, you can simply follow the trail of puddles it left behind of tears.
Oh.
Because squonks are so very, very ugly, they tend to be solitary animals, and they only come out at night. They prefer to stay hidden in the bushes and rarely come out in the open. But if you happen to do see one, and it sees you, you better look quickly because squonks have a pretty amazing survival tactic. When they are frightened or feel cornered, they will look at you with the most sorrowful, sad eyes and then poof, or maybe splash. They dissolve into nothing but a puddle of salt water.
Their whole bodies just dissolve?
Yep.
Oh.
They're a big puddle of salt water on the ground.
Oh. That's horrible.
According to UnchartedLancaster.com, a man named J.P. Wentling was once lucky enough to see a squonk near the town of Mont Alto.
Really?
Yes.
That's fairly close to where my parents live, I believe.
Really?
There could be squonks out there.
There could be. Perhaps we should set out an expedition to find a squonk. We'll bring a mirror with us.
Why?
To show him how ugly he is.
Oh, that's terrible.
Well,
I'd wrap him up in a blanket and bring him home.
what if we just take a nice picture of him and then we'll filter it and make him look really pretty?
put the little bows and everything on him.
Sure.
And
Yeah, take out some of those wrinkles. We got filters that'll do that.
Right.
Maybe he'll have better self-esteem after that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It was a frosty, cold night, and Wentling had heard that the cold made a squonk both move more slowly and cry fewer tears, since squonk tears froze before they hit the ground. So he grabbed a sack and headed out into the bushes, where he hunkered down and began crying out like a squonk. Lured by the man's pitiful cries, an unsuspecting squonk got too close, and Wentling was able to capture it in his sack. Happy to be carrying the ugly creature, and it truly was ugly, with its piggy body covered in saggy skin and warts and moles, Wentling hurried towards camp. But the closer Wentling got to camp, the more he realized that the sack seemed to be getting lighter and lighter. Curious, he stopped midway home and carefully opened the sack to peer inside. There was nothing there except a puddle of tears and bubbles. The first time a squonk was ever mentioned in a book was in 1910, in a publication called Fearsome Creatures of the Lumber Woods, and it was later included in the 1939 book titled Fearsome Creatures. But honestly, it doesn't sound all that fearsome to me. It just sounds sad and lonely.
And a little damp.
A little moist. Yeah, I said it, moist.
Poor thing.
But who would bother a squonk?
I know, just leave it alone. What's it doing other than crying? I mean, it's not really bothering you.
Not at all, unless it's keeping up at night, because that crying probably would get old.
Right. That's true. It'd be like a car alarm that never stops.
Yeah. The final lumberjack-inspired fearsome creature that I want to tell you all about is the terrifying glowacus. The glowacus was so terrifying, in fact, that it caused the locals of Glastonbury, Connecticut, to mount hunting parties to catch it and kill it once and for all. Although it began as a lumberjack tall tale, it may have turned out to be a real creature, because something resembling a glowacus began killing off livestock and family pets in 1939. According to damnconnecticut.com, hunters, farmers, and other eyewitnesses in Glastonbury and the surrounding areas began seeing a creature that was somehow part dog, part bear, and part cat. Or maybe it was part panther and part lion, or some kind of wolf hybrid. It's kind of hard to say, since it seemed to change shape with each new sighting. For weeks, people had been hearing strange cries at night, almost as if a hyena was cackling, followed by a blood-curdling scream. Come morning, they discovered that their small livestock and even their family pets had been killed. Then, people began spotting some very strange tracks. They were similar to a puma's or mountain lion's, except pumas and mountain lions don't live in Connecticut. The newspapers even picked up the story, and even a decade later, reporters recalled the story. A reporter from the Cape Codder wrote, quote, "I was working as a young reporter on the Hartford Courant that year, when World War II was in the wings. But we were preoccupied with the developing story about this Glastonbury creature that howled at night, slipped in and out of view, and caused dogs, cats, and small farm animals to disappear. As the sightings grew in number, so did the variety of descriptions. First, it was a huge cat. Then, some people reported what looked like a dog in the back and a cat in the front. Others saw it vice versa. One man called to say that he had seen a big animal in the pitch dark with eyes that glowed like embers. It was clear to us that this weird unknown animal needed a name. One editor coined the word glowacus, gla for Glastonbury, whack for wacky, and us as a proper Latin ending. It caught on like magic. End quote.
Except it's difficult to say glowacus. It's not an easy word.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off my tongue so well.
Not like squonk.
Not like squonk. On January 14th, 1939, Glastonbury locals organized a glowacus hunting party. The men were armed, of course, and even brought trained hounds to aid in their search. Despite combing the countryside, no sign of the glowacus was found. And soon after, the glowacus seemed to have disappeared. Well, at least for a little while. But then, in the mid-1950s, stories began to resurface about a canine bear-cat creature with a taste for pet dogs and cats. This time, the glowacus prowled around Glastonbury and was even spotted 40 miles away in Granby. But shortly after, with no explanation, the glowacus vanished. However, in 2011, a car did hit a male mountain lion in Connecticut. The creature had walked over 1,500 miles from South Dakota to get there. So, who knows? Maybe some of those logger tall tales from the 1800s weren't so tall after all. Maybe they really did see a slide rock bolter, or a squonk, or perhaps even a glowacus out in the woods.
I hope not.
Yeah, the glowacus isn't something I'd want to run into.
No, it definitely sounds like it was some sort of mountain cat that had somehow ended up there.
Right.
I mean, the slide rock bolter obviously is an explanation for rock slides. I definitely wouldn't want to run into the glowacus because it sounds like some sort of mountain cat that had found its way into Glastonbury. And the slide rock bolter to me sounds just like an explanation for landslides.
Yeah, it does. And the squonk, well, I wouldn't mind having a squonk because it's better than having a Siberian hamster. At least you would see the squonk once in a while.
Well, maybe once. And then it would no longer be.
Yeah, it'd be all moist.
You enjoy saying that, don't you?
I know that so many people dislike that word. Like you.
Oh, I don't care about that word.
But I like the way it rolls off the tongue. Moist.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. And just to backtrack a little, we adore Mr. Chonkers. We just never see him.
No, worst pet ever for adults or kids, really. I would never get one for my kid. You don't ever see him. You'd have to buy a hamster cam.
Yes, because he takes nocturnal to heart. I mean, he is out from like 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. And, we're sleeping.
Yeah. The only reason we know that he's alive is because we can see that he's played in a sand bath and he's eaten all his fresh vegetables.
Yes. And occasionally we see a little tuft of his butt hair in the in the little window that we have.
He's the worst guest ever.
Well, yeah. He doesn't play loud music or anything.
No.
And he doesn't, leave the toilet seat up.
No, he just gets waited on hand and foot. I don't know.
We're hoping...
That's just our take on it.
Yeah, we're hoping as the seasons change that he will come out a bit more. I think the summer sun coming through the window into the room was too much for him.
I'd like to put a little mirror in there for him, just to see what would happen. I think he'd eek again. Remember the one day we made him eek?
Yeah. I didn't make him eek.
I kind of startled him and he went eek. Such a weird noise from such a big, hairy creature. It was rather girlish. And he's got balls on the size of acorns.
God. Okay.
Really. It's incredible.
That's what everybody wants to know about.
Yeah. That's probably what all the little tracks in the sand are. Not from his feet. It's from his balls being dragged around. I'll tell you all out there. If you ever think about getting your kids a hamster, get a female one. Because from the back view, it's nothing but balls. It's incredible.
Oh my God.
That's just my advice for all our fellow wanderers that aren't hamster owners, that are thinking about becoming hamster owners.
Right.
Don't traumatize your kids like that. It's not worth it.
Anyway, if you would like to know more about the Chateau de Brissac or those lumberjack critters, those fearsome critters,
fearsome critters.
You are just riled up tonight.
I've had a long day.
Yeah, I did too, but you're getting giddy, whereas I'm getting super tired.
Well, if you'd like to know more about tonight's episode, Beth, take it away.
You can always check our sources in our show notes, everybody, as I'm sure you know, because we say it all the time.
I know, we do. But we just want to remind people that they too can delve deeper into our stories and learn more for themselves. It's kind of nice when you read it for yourself.
Right.
There's something to say for that.
Yes, there is.
Well, with that said, join us again next week for an all-new episode of Where Our Minds Wander.
See you soon. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to traveling with you again to the places where our minds wander.
If you like what you heard, please take a moment and provide us with a 5-star rating and a comment on your favorite listening platform. It really helps us move up the list and become more visible on the podcast charts so new people can find us.
And thank you all for your continued support.
See you next week for an all-new episode.